Friday Sermon, 17th January 2025. Expedition of Abdullah bin Rawaha radiallahu anhu. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, says this expedition took place in Shawwal 6 years after Hijrah. When Abu Rafi was killed, the Jews appointed Uzair bin Rizam as their leader. He announced that he would be different from previous Jewish leaders and that the Holy Prophet ﷺ would not be victorious over the Jews on his watch. He started visiting different Jewish tribes to incite them to fight against the Holy Prophet ﷺ. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, draws on the writings of Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad radiallahu anhu. Abdullah bin Rawaha radiallahu anhu and his 3 companions were instructed by the Holy Prophet ﷺ to travel to Khyber and gain insights into the state of affairs. They heard Uzair bin Rizam and his companions plot against the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Due to the discourse between Abdullah bin Rawaha radiallahu anhu and Uzair bin Rizam, the Holy Prophet ﷺ desired for a mutual settlement so the mischief could be stopped and a state of peace and safety established, even if this meant accepting Uzair as their leader of Khyber on the condition that he would refrain from further mischief making against Islam. So he called Uzair to Medina. Abdullah bin Rawaha radiallahu anhu took an assurance of peace and security from Uzair bin Rizam, and he declared he would not act treacherously. Abdullah bin Rawaha radiallahu anhu said if an agreement of this kind could be settled, the Holy Prophet ﷺ would deal with them with goodness and appoint him as chieftain of Khyber. Uzair, who desperately craved position or perhaps had ulterior motives, was pleased with this proposal. However, at the same time he gathered the Jewish ministers and sought their counsel. They did not believe the Holy Prophet ﷺ would make him leader of Khyber. Despite this, Uzair agreed to go to Medina. He too brought 30 Jews to accompany him. Once they reached a place called Gargara, the intention of Uzair changed, or possibly, if he had harbored evil intentions, the time for the expression had now come. He deceivingly took a sword from an honorable Muslim named Abdullah bin Anis Ansari radiallahu anhu. However, this man was swift and immediately understood the intentions of Uzair. He said, "O enemy of Allah, do you intend to betray us?" Repeating these words twice, Uzair did not respond, but instead prepared for war. The Jews rushed in on the Muslims as though this was pre-planned. Fighting broke out between the Jews and Muslims. Although both parties were equal in number, with the Jews mentally prepared and the Muslims completely without intention, the grace of Allah was such that despite the Muslims bearing some injuries, there were no loss of life. On the other hand, every single Jew felt the taste of his bitter treachery and was annihilated. When this party returned to Medina and the Holy Prophet ﷺ was briefed on the state of affairs, he thanked God for the safe and peaceful return of the Muslims and said, "Thank God for having saved you from this cruel nation." Moving on, the expedition of Amr bin Umayyah Damri radiallahu anhu. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, said that then there was the expedition of Amr bin Umayyah Damri radiallahu anhu, which was sent to us Abu Sufyan. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, quoted Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad radiallahu anhu. There is a disagreement amongst historians with regards to the date of this expedition. There appears more of a consensus for the date of 6th year after Hijrah. Allah knows best. His Holiness, may Allah be his helper, draws on the writings of Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad radiallahu anhu. Abu Sufyan, who was chief of Mecca, had been humiliated during the expedition of Azab. This rage resulted in him slyly scheming against the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Knowing that the Holy Prophet ﷺ travelled the streets without security, he conjured a plan with like-minded people from Quraysh to have him assassinated. A young Bedouin man came to Abu Sufyan and began to say, "I have heard your proposition and am willing to do this. I am a strong individual whose grip is severe and whose strike is sudden." The assassin was stopped by chieftain among the Ansar as he approached the Holy Prophet ﷺ. The Holy Prophet ﷺ spared his life after the assassin exposed Abu Sufyan's plan. He stayed in Medina for a few days and then, out of his own will, became a Muslim. After knowing of Abu Sufyan's conspiracy, the Holy Prophet ﷺ sent two of his companions, Amr bin Umayyah Damri radiallahu anhu and Salma bin Aslam radiallahu anhu, to Mecca to remain informed of the plots and intentions of the people. He also permitted his companions to put an end to this war enemy of Islam if the opportunity were to arise. The Quraysh were alerted and the two companions headed back to Medina fending for their lives. However, it was by the grace of Allah that Umayyah radiallahu anhu and Salma radiallahu anhu found two spies of the Quraysh. The spies attacked the companions of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. Consequently, in this battle, one spy was killed, while the other was taken prisoner and brought back to Medina.